لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر سبحان الله والحمد لله لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان سبحان الله والحمد لله لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر سبحان الله والحمد لله لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر तू ही मेरी मौला तू ही मेरी मौला अल्लाह तू ही मेरी मौला तू ही मेरी मौला अल्लाह तू ही मेरी मौला तू ही मेरी मौला अल्लाह तू ही मेरी मौला तू ही मेरी मौला سبحان الله والحمد لله لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر
Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could settle down, we want to make a start, inshallah. Jazakallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. All praise is due to our Creator, Nourisher and Sustainer. And peace and salutations on our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Respected ulama who are present, I don't see too many, I think one or two. Our very special guests, the Parak family, members of the Orient Islamic Educational Institute and the Board of Governors, the senior management of the school, and esteemed guests, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and a very warm greetings to all. On behalf of the chairman, the trustees, and the members of the Orient Islamic Educational Institute, as well as the Board of Governors of the Orient Islamic School, I extend a very warm welcome to all, and thank you most sincerely for accepting our invitation to the official opening of the Yacoob and Parak boardroom. This event was due to be held in the first week of June, but unfortunately, with Uncle Cyril having put us on alert level 3, we had no choice but to postpone the event. And Alhamdulillah, we're very thankful that we were able to convene the event for this morning. Without further ado, I would like to call upon Hafiz Muhammad Ibrahim Parak to commence proceedings with the recitation from the Quran Majid, inshallah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والنجم إذا هوى ما ضل صاحبكم وما غوى وما ينطق عن الهوى إن هو إلا وحي يوحى علمه شديد القوى ذو مرة فاستوى وهو بالأفق الأعلى ثم دنا فتدلى فكان قاب قوسين أو أدنى فأوحى إلى عبده ما أوحى ما كذب الفؤاد ما رأى أفتمارونه على ما يرى ولقد رآه نزلة أخرى عند سدرة المنتهى عندها جنة المأوى إذ يغشى السدرة ما يغشى ما زاغ البصر وما طغى لقد رأى من آيات ربه الكبرى أفرأيتم اللات والعزى ومناة الثالثة الأخرى ألكم الذكر وله الأنثى تلك إذا قسمة ضيزى إن هي إلا أسماء سميتموها أنتم وآباؤكم ما أنزل الله بها من سلطان إن يتبعون إلا الظن وما تهوى الأنفس ولقد جاءهم من ربهم الهدى أم للإنسان ما تمنى فلله الآخرة والأولى صدق الله العظيم.
MashaAllah. Hafiz Muhammad Ibrahim Parak is an ex-student of our school who matriculated in 2019. And Alhamdulillah, we are so proud that in addition to Hafiz Muhammad, we have so many other Huffaz from Orient who have graduated over the years, and we are looking forward to at least 10 graduating a little later this year in December, inshallah. So Maulana Muhammadi, we say Jazakallah khair to you for producing these Huffaz and for steering the Islamiyat department at our school so efficiently, alhamdulillah. I now call upon our chairman, Advocate Umar Moosa, who needs no introduction. He holds several caps, among which, of course, are the chairman of the Orient Islamic Educational Institute, and also the chairman of the Orient Islamic Board, and also a mufti in his part-time. So it's my very great pleasure to call upon Advocate Moosa to address you.
It's full-time soon, inshallah. Everybody needs a career after law, so only have to grow a dari, but that's the only problem. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I saw the youngster there, Ibrahim Parak, sitting, and I said, you must be the Hafiz that's reading the Qiraat. And he said, yes. I said, who's your father? He said, Ibrahim Parak. I said, no, it doesn't ring a bell. Who's your grandfather? He said, no, late Uncle Qasim Parak. Nowadays, very often I tell people I knew their grandfathers and their great-grandfathers very well, which means that I'm on injury time. It's very scary that these youngsters today, it's a whole new generation. Babu is right. I do hold many caps, not very healthy because I basically sit in judgment on myself, but that is circumstantial. There's going to be change of leadership as well. It's not for no reason that I've got Dr. Hussain Ranri and Zain Fakhruddin on my table. Inshallah, if Uncle Cyril and COVID and ESCOM don't kill me by next year, in a year's time, they'll be taking over as chair and vice chair. We also introduced a whole lot of young people. The reason is that all of us have a very bad and nasty habit of dying. and somebody's going to take over. So we're introducing a whole lot of young people, and one of them you'll see this evening, late Yacoob Patel's niece, Hasina. She's doing the vote of thanks. They've got to cut their teeth somewhere. So we all need to move on eventually. Babu said to you, don't expect a formal speech because, I virtually know most of you. Babu said that thanks to Uncle Cyril and COVID, the event was supposed to be held in June. But the story is a little bit more complicated. This day has finally come. It's been in the offing for many, many years. I don't want to embarrass people. We have many well-wishers in the community, many donors. But late Yacoob Parak's family, his sons, Ismail Aslam, they've been absolutely phenomenal in supporting us. Until 97, Orient was a state-aided school. We then became private. Unfortunately, we don't have the endowment funds like the big private white schools. At Durban Girls College, they have a voluntary levy, which is compulsory. Every month, they say it's voluntary. They've got a check, but you've got to pay it, otherwise your kid gets thrown out. And they've got tens of millions. We've had to rely upon ex-graduates of Orient, and this family has been absolutely amazing. So we are very privileged and very honored today with the event. We are very humbled that we are doing this naming ceremony. Now, there are many buildings and facilities here, the laboratories that are named after families. This particular one is our pride and joy. Many of you have seen the boardroom, others of you have not, and we hope a small entourage will be going upstairs simply because we don't want to spread COVID around. But our IT Ustad here, Yusuf Ibrahim, will be live streaming. So as we walk up, a few of us, you will see on the screen what is going on. But later, after lunch, you're invited to take a walk upstairs. I think that I'm not exaggerating when I say that the boardroom is the pride and joy of the Institute and the board. It's quite a unique venue. I'm not just saying that because I view the world with jaundiced eyes because I'm the chairperson. We've had ulama from South Africa and all over the world coming there, and then we host them for lunch, and they've commented that it's the most unbelievable experience being in our boardroom, and I'll explain to you in a minute why. I've had diplomats come there and also ask permission, can we take photographs? And I said, of course you can take photographs. There are facilities like the hall, the extension, and the musalla, which people like Hashim Bhai, Randri, and Yusuf Vali played leading roles in. We shared the work. The boardroom was the labor of love of late Bai Day, and which is why I insisted that his two daughters, Rashida and Fatima, join us today. Bai was primarily responsible for physically putting the boardroom together, and then in partnership with me, I did the history part of it because that's a passion of mine. So that's a euphemistic way of saying I'm about the only person left who actually knows the history. My nephew Naeem, sitting there, keeps telling me, Uncle Umar, wish you long life, but please put the history before you die. That's true, Naeem. You keep telling me that. Thanks for wishing me a long life. I love you too. I can feel the love. He's more interested in the history. He's still waiting. Yeah, I'm scared if I do it, then Malik al-Maut will come for me. So the sad part is I'm the only one that knows the family history, and with Professor Ghulam Wahid, I'm desperately trying to get that completed. There's Malik al-Maut running around town making inquiries about me and where I can be found. That history took about 5 years to put together. It's quite amazing. I had some photographs of the founding trustees, half a photograph. Fortunately, today with technology, we were able to duplicate the other half. And so it's a long story, but people have commented. You must also appreciate that history is very fundamental to the Islamic theology. The Quran, the Kareem, is full of stories of history. The Arabs were able to trace their ancestry. Hazrat Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu was an absolute master. Hundreds of years he could relate his ancestry. This is very deeply embedded in Islam. In the end, we'll all be dust. But to the extent you can remember, this is something that is an Islamic injunction. When those of you go upstairs, you'll see the chairpersons of the institute, the company that goes back 80 years. Generally, you have to die to get on the wall. I'm the only one who's still alive. I think I'm alive. I'm on the wall. Then you'll see people that you remember and you recognize that contributed, the original 16 founding trustees. You'll also find a huge frame of Srinivasan Sastry, the Indians that complained, and India sent governor generals. The first was Sastry. He was so eloquent, he was considered the most eloquent speaker in the British Empire. No Englishman could speak like him. There are very old photographs of the Orient Club where the school takes its name. And he said, these people will never educate your children. The founders, not one of them had a matric. And today we've got alumni that it's just unbelievable. Alhamdulillah, with Allah's qudrat, what our alumni have achieved. But that's why he has pride of place in the boardroom. It was actually a non-Muslim. That's why Sastry College is named after him. But he said, build your own school. You're wasting your time. And that was the genesis of it. You'll see pictures. We had our 60th anniversary. You'll see some pictures where late Robert Kennedy, the best president America never had, his daughter Kerry came down 5 years ago because her father had met Albert Luthuli exactly in 1966. And myself, with partnership with the school, hosted a function. You'll see me introducing Kerry to Ila Gandhi. And Albertina, Chief Luthuli's daughter, was present as well. It's never happened before, it'll never happen again. They spend time all over South Africa, but I got private mails from Boston to say that please don't say it, you'll upset people. We spent one day in Durban and it's the most memorable experience we've ever had. So you'll see picture frames of that. So Orient has got a very deep history. But the bottom line is that that venue is our pride and joy. It contains the history. Ghulam and his colleague Tembisa have written a book. So as far as Orient is concerned, I'm happy I can close my eyes. It's there for whoever wants to read. And you walk through the boardroom, you can't manage it all today. You have to spend more time, but the history is captured. So we are very, very honored, Ismail, we are very, very honored that we're naming this after your family. I couldn't think of anything more appropriate, well, after your late father, who was extremely affable. At least in your case, I can say I know you and I knew your father, so you don't make me feel too old. But I mean, he was, and it certainly wasn't a windy day when you guys were born because the apple didn't fall far from the tree, very much like your father. And you have been a great pillar of support, and you mustn't think we don't appreciate it. Behind your back, we make a lot of dua for you people. I know you need the duas. I mean, we know you well. So just pulling your leg before your family gets all worked up. So we are very honored, and we are very, very, it's very touching for us. So we want to thank you for all the years, and this is our humble way of saying thank you back to you. You didn't ask for it, and we volunteered it, because occasionally people like Yusuf Ali have a conscience, not all the time, but occasionally, Yusuf. So that's really what I want to say. A little change to the program. I mean, Ghulam Vaid will be addressing us shortly about the founders. And then we'll be making our way upstairs, about a dozen of us, just for the ribbon cutting. And then we'll come back. I think there's a closing dua. Dr. Saab, there's lunch before Salah because some people are playing golf this morning. Is that Ismail's guests? No, I'm just checking the priority of the family. Are they playing mastika? I'm just pulling your leg, Ismail. Don't worry, Babu is also checking the time. He wants to play. Where's Babu? He's also, I said, what are you doing? You know, quarter to 2 I'm playing. So make sure you give him, oh, he left to Babu, you take pat course, huh? You're not going to get chow today. All right, so I don't want to come back here to the mic. So I'm just going to, well, the program is there. Is the program up, Yusuf? I just want to juxtapose. I'm a critic, I keep coming to the mic. Let's just do the flowers. Farana, where are you hiding, my girl? I need a copy of that. I should have taken your, oh yeah, there's one here. Thank you, Jazakallah, thanks. I got it. Right, so you'll also appreciate now why I will call upon late Bai's daughter Fatima, because I think it's very appropriate that she does the handing out of the bouquets, given Bai's role in that room. Right, so Fatima, you can make your presence felt. And I know I set out the flowers. Farana, is it on this list? I'm getting senile now. Is it here somewhere? Fatima, you know where the flowers are. You can grab one from there. Sorry, Farana, making you come right to the front to show me where the names are, if they're here. It's not a separate list, is it? So tell me who they are. All right, so the two sisters, Bilkish Parak and Fatima Parak, right? That's, and Yasmin and Zuleika. So please, if you can, don't all come at once and intimidate me. Just come, just come. You better support your sister. Don't come alone. So Bilkish and Fatima Parak, and then the two wives, Yasmin and Zuleika. Alhamdulillah, and you. MashaAllah, nice to see you. Must make some mitomo, you know. Must have some mitomo, you know. Huh? Must have some sweet in the mouth. Come, come. Ismail, your shares will be high tonight. That's why I'm doing this for you. Pleasure, man. Farana, don't run away, my girl. There's two more. Mrs. Yacoob, Mrs. Fatima Patel, is she here? Yacoob Patel, Mrs. Yacoob Patel, Fatima Patel. Come, no, you. If Muhammad won't go to the mountain, we can bring it to you if you want. And Mrs. Taskin Vahid, that's Ghulam Vahid's wife. I don't know who to look for. Don't think I've ever seen her before. Come. Well, imagine if I told you you've got all the anxiety of the embarrassment too. Okay, Jazakallah Fatima, thank you very much. Rashida, we acknowledge your presence as well. Although Fatima deputized, that's being her oldest sister, you can bully her to do what you want. All right, so that's basically it. Babu, you can Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah Umar, and to Fatima for handing on the bouquets. And also, I didn't realize this change of plan. I can now tee off a little earlier. It is now my very great pleasure to call upon Professor Ghulam Vahid, who also needs very little introduction. He has been a renowned historian, academic. He has written a book on the Orient Islamic School, and it's actually a magnum opus. It's prescribed in many universities across, or read in many universities across the world. And he has a very deep understanding of the background to the Orient Islamic School and the community as a whole. So my great pleasure to hand over to Ghulam.
Thank you, Mr. Ansur. Assalamu alaikum. I think Advocate Moosa did the historical part, so I'm not sure what's left for me to say. But, firstly, it's always an honor to return to my alma mater. Whenever I enter the gates of this school, the historian in me takes me back to the 1970s, and I think of the years I spent in the classroom. And unfortunately, as a student, we never really understood the history of the school and the incredible, and the incredible sacrifices and the contributions that went into making the Orient a center of excellence. It was much later in life that and especially when I began doing research on the history of Muslims and Indians in this country, that I learned of the founding trustees and the individuals who played such an important role in the life of the school. And here I am thinking of, when you go up to the boardroom, you will see all of their names there, but people like M.I. Bobat, IVM Juma, A.I. Kaji, A.B. Moosa, that's Advocate's father, A.M. Lokhat, Mohammed Ibrahim, A.K.M. Laki, and many, many others who played an instrumental role in the founding of this institution. Now, one of the remarkable things about the Muslims who came to this country is that wherever they settled, the first thing they did is they established a mosque and a madrasa. So if you went to, for example, Amersfoort or Charlestown or any of these places, there may have been 2 or 3 families, but they always established a mosque and a madrasa. And I think we should take this opportunity to acknowledge the role of these pioneers who, with the blessing of Allah, put in place the institutions that helped to establish Islam in this country. Because often we are told that, it's only the ulama who kept this alive. But I think the institutions of learning and education were put in place by these pioneer migrants. And it's not only the traders who came, but also the indentured Indians who arrived. As soon as they completed the indenture, wherever they established themselves, they always put up a school, a temple, a mosque, or whatever, and that has sustained the community. So Orient, in other words, was an initiative of the community for the community, and it is fitting that the significant contributions of these individuals are acknowledged through their portraits in the boardroom. Now, Advocate Moosa has already told you that the boardroom of any organization reflects that organization's character and culture. And these are people who will be remembered for their wisdom, their generosity, for making a significant contribution to the building of the school, but more generally, a commitment to education at a time when secondary education was in short supply for Indians, and many a talented person could not find a place to further their studies. And in fact, in the absence of such facilities, many Muslim children were sent to Aligarh Muslim University, which had been established in 1875 in India. And famous people like A.I. Kaji and Dr. Yusuf Dadu and the very famous Mr. Moosa Parak all went to Aligarh to study. And, some of you may remember a Mariam Jiwa, doctor who passed away recently. And because at the time, there were no facilities for Muslim girls in particular, her father relocated with his entire family to Aligarh, and the daughters, were able to get an education there. She qualified as a doctor, and I think one of her brothers was a very well-known anesthetist in Durban, and another moved to Canada. But that was the lack of facilities within the community. So the Parak family itself has a deep connection with Aligarh. Yacoob Parak's father, M.E. Parak, studied at Aligarh, and in 1950, his brothers Moosa Parak and Yusuf Parak also went to Aligarh with their cousin Abdullah Parak. And they spent 2 years studying there and returned in 1952 with Maulana Alim Siddiqui when he came here for the Natal Education Conference. And that was an important conference because a lot of the ulama were objecting to the building of a secular school in which Islamic education could be imparted. And it was at this conference that he gave a ruling that it was acceptable to build such a school. So the first high school for Indians was only built in 1927. And as Advocate Moosa has told you, it was the initiative of Sir Srinivasa Sastry. And he had come here as an agent general, and that was somebody that the Indian government appointed to sort of intervene on behalf of local Indians if they faced any issues or problems with the national government. So it was Sastry then who inspired the building of the Orient Club in Isipingo, and that is why there is a portrait of Sastry in the Orient boardroom. It's also important to note that many of the founding trustees of the school were not from Durban, but from Ladysmith, from Newcastle, from other parts of the country, because at the time it was envisioned that this would be a boarding school. So they actually bought land on the bluff to build such a school, so to accommodate students from all over the country, but the racist policies of the local state prevented that. And so it was only about 16 years later this Orient school came into existence. So for Orient to honor Yacoob Parak is to recognize one of the giants of the business world in the city. Names that you have lived with in the Casbah, places like New Shop and Reunion Clothing are well known, but they're all associated with the extended Parak family. And now Yacoob Parak's legacy to Orient will be forever written into history. He was one of the 10, it feels strange me telling you about him when you probably know his history better than I do. So I'm just basing on the research I've done, so if something's wrong, excuse me for that. So the family initially lived at Haqqani building at 379 Pine Street, which was at the intersection of Pine Street and Cathedral Road. And it's important I mention that because that just brings something to my mind. That's the photograph of Haqqani building. But what's important about this is that this building was built by the Katorian Association, and the rent that was collected from here was used to run a school in Kator itself. And this was another sort of feature of the early pioneer traders, that they always establish institutions in Durban which were used to fund education in their home villages. So a few years ago, I went with Advocate Moosa to Porbandar, and it's quite amazing because they are from 1880s to today, they are still running 2 schools in Porbandar. And they're quite, massive, outstanding schools. So, and just this morning, I came across an article where there's a school in in Kolvad. Now, Kolvad is just across the river from Kator, and the families from there, the Pahads, the Salujis, the Babas, and they also run their school. But the interesting fact I came across was that, they always felt that, amongst the people from Surat, they were sort of the upper echelon. And so in 1920, they actually imported a tower, which is like the Big Ben, and it stands there. It's 522 kilos heavy, but that is still on the River Tapi. You'll find it there. So Big Ben on Tapi. And so Yacoob Parak, then coming back to Yacoob Parak, but okay, so the point is that each of the people from the village, whether it's Tarkeshwar, Kator, Kolvat, Porbandar, they all establish institutions here, and they continue to run educational facilities in their villages at home. So Yacoob Parak attended St. Anthony's School and Sastry College before joining his father's business in 1944. And at the time, it was M.E. Parak and Sons in Grey Street. Family subsequently opened a clothing manufacturing plant in Reunion, which I think the first managed by Mr. Moosa Parak, and that then moved to Randall's Road and then to the bottom end on Grey Street. The family then subsequently also started Twin Clothing in 1958, which today is in Amgeni Road. So while Indians generally have a reputation for what we pejoratively call the corner shop, I think the example of Mr. Yacoob Parak shows a person who was an innovative entrepreneur, who showed excellent financial acumen, was a motivational leader, and always prepared to build networks across race and ethnic lines. And so in 1968, he started with a partner, Sealander Shipping and Forwarding, which was the first Black-owned customs clearing and forwarding business. At this time, he and his brother Kasim also purchased a Good Hope Center from the Nalya family, and the Good Hope Center was at the time the largest building in the precinct of Grey Street. So the expansion of the Parak family then led to some realignment. So some of the brothers took over Reunion and others in a new shop. And in 1965, I think it was Yacoob and his brother Kasim then took over Twin clothing. So by the early 1970s, this extended Emi Parak family was associated with many of the big businesses in Durban, such as New Shop Holdings, Twin Clothing, Reunion Clothing, Future Fabrics, Prila Mills, Exquisite Fashions, the Coventry Group, and Grand Shoes. But it was in the 1970s and 1980s that Mr. Yacoob Parak ventured in different directions, and he acquired a national reputation as an entrepreneur. One important development at this time was the formation of the Indian Industrial Development Corp. Now you had this industrial corporations for coloreds and Africans, but it was to help small business. And so Yacoob Parak and other Indian businessmen, they managed to get one established for Indians, and he was the first founding director as well as chairperson. And eventually the Once for Colored Africans and Indians then becomes the Small Business Development Corporation, and he served on its board. In 1984, he was a founding member of the Elangeni Oil and Cake Mill with Advocate A.B. Mohammed and Ismail Parak. In 1995, I think the company again purchased some retail stores, and today they have around 150 retail stores in the various provinces. While all of these achievements were very impressive, I think where he really left an indelible mark is in the black banking sector, which until then was dominated by whites. Would people like his brother Kasim and J.N. Reddy and other Indian businessmen, they started the New Republic Bank in 1971. And that was a very important development because it was difficult at the time for Indians to either get jobs in banks or even to get funding from banking institutions. So that was an important development, and that in 1997 it was sold to a Malaysian businessman, and subsequently it collapsed in 1999 in the wake of the Asian financial crisis. He also served as a director of the Standard Bank of South Africa, and I think one of his great achievements was the Al Baraka Bank, which stands to this day, and that was an initiative with Advocate A.B. Mohammed and Ismail Parak, and they lodged an application for a license in 1987, but because the South African government was not familiar with Islamic banking, it took quite a while to get that sorted out. Now, at the time, there was a lot of reservation about starting an Islamic bank for the simple reason that there was a similar venture that had taken place a few years earlier, and that had failed. And in 1989, two Islamic banks were opened, and the one stands to this day, but the other one has collapsed. So I think that is a testament to the kind of work that they had done. It's a tribute to their professionalism and the due diligence. And, I read somewhere that one of the registrar of the banks would always, whenever he met Yacoob Parak, he would remind him that he was the only person that he allowed to be a chairman, deputy chairman, and director of 3 different banks. He also served on the board of several JSE-listed companies. And I think it's a tribute to his stature as an entrepreneur and knowledge of the business world that for 3 years he served on the president's annual economic summit, which was aimed at promoting growth in the South African economy. That was from 1985 to 88. Now, those who knew Mr. Yacoob Vauda always, commented that he showed a desire to grow as a person and a leader. And one person that I interviewed said that he was especially proud and he regarded as a great achievement the 5-day hike that he undertook with environmentalist Ian Player in the Shushluwe Game Reserve. And he said that the lesson he took from this is that if you put your mind to something, you can overcome the greatest challenges. So while Mr. Yacoob Parak carved a reputation as an astute businessman and entrepreneur, it would be remiss not to acknowledge his role as a philanthropist. He served on numerous religious, educational, and charitable institutions, including the St. Aidan's Hospital, the Natal Renal Society, and he also helped raise funds for the Parak residents at UKZN. He passed away in 2003. Mr. Parak fought numerous battles in the white-dominated boardrooms of South Africa. In this journey, he held open the door for many people who would otherwise have been excluded. Today, Mr. Yacoob Parak has a boardroom named after him. It is a fitting tribute to a life lived in the service of his community. However, given the energy and zest that Mr. Parak brought to his everyday life, he would undoubtedly have preferred sitting at the head of the boardroom directing a meeting than having a plaque in his honor. Yacoob Parak and his sons have been generous donors to the Orient over the years. And the name Yacoob Parak is now added to those of other community leaders which also grace the school. So the next time you visit Orient, pause for a moment, look at the names on the buildings, the boardrooms, the classrooms, and think about those lives lived to the full in the service of others. We owe them a huge debt of gratitude. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah, Professor Ghulam Wahid. I must tell you that that was very well researched. We learned so much about the late Yacoob Parak, and I'm sure all the members of the Parak family who are present here will be immensely proud of the achievements. And we hope, inshallah, that from among our community, we will get more leaders like the late Yacoob Parak, inshallah. To respond on behalf of the Parak family, I call upon Aslam, the late Yacoob Parak's son, to say a few words, inshallah. Ismail actually has handed over the baton to Aslam.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. I was told earlier that I will have to sweat for my lunch. Now I understand why. To talk after a senior counsel, a principal, and a professor, all of whom by their very nature are great orators, is a very difficult task. The Yacoob Muhammad Parak family thanks you for honoring us with your presence this morning. And our apologies to those who have to cancel their golf games. And special thanks to Ghulam Wahid for the research and presentation of my dad's CV. Walking through the Orient School, one is struck by the extent to which the school is steeped in history. Many of us attended Orient School and have fond memories of our student lives here. And we carry great memories of the close and lifelong friendships formed. Being youngsters in the school, the contribution of our elders in building the school was something we did not really appreciate. It was only much later, as we grew older, that we truly appreciated their hard work and immense contributions. It was not just a case of someone contributing money to the organizations. These were people who were not only business-minded and successful, but they were also great visionaries, very passionate and committed to serve the community. They have built and left great legacies. They have built institutions that have stood the test of time, some of which are the Anjuman School, this Orient institution, South Coast Madrasa, ML Sultan, Darul Yatama, and many, many masjids and madrasas throughout the country. We are indeed blessed that the next generation continued with the good work of our forefathers in building and operating private Islamic schools, like the Orient School, Al-Falah, Phoenix Muslim School, Crescent, and the other 80-odd Muslim schools all over the country. The needs of our communities continue to increase. We are faced with a multitude of problems, ranging from high levels of unemployment, affirmative action policies, difficulty in gaining entry to universities, and so on. In this context, education is more crucial than ever, and we need to prepare our young people to hold their own, both intellectually and with technological skills, to compete for jobs. It's a mammoth task, as the cost of education is increasingly getting higher and higher by the day. Fatima, Bilkish, Ismail, and I were very fortunate for being born to Yacoob and Aisha, our loving, caring, and affectionate parents. Our parents taught us to be honest, charitable, and caring, and to respect everyone. We hope we got something of that right. And they always told us to try and do the right thing. Our father came from a very humble background and he went through many ups and downs. But he thanked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the ups that have been many, which made his life rich and successful. And from the downs, he learned many things, and that contributed to his experience and his passing on knowledge to us. He had tremendous foresight and led his family and community into several new areas, most of which were very successful. And his main advice to us was that from the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we must share this with the less fortunate in our community and country. Finally, all those that made a contribution to this school and the community at large never sought recognition. That their names appear on the various buildings or on boardrooms was not because they wanted this acknowledgement. This recognition was all given to them posthumously. For them, the work was a reward in itself. We were very pleasantly surprised when the Institute told us of their intention to name the boardroom after our late father. Our family thanks the directors and officials of the Orient Islamic Institution for honoring his memory. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the strength, the resources, and the will to continue to work hard to make a positive difference in the lives of everybody. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah, Aslam and Ismail, for that tribute to your father. You know, this reminds me of a hadith. The Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, when a man dies, his deeds come to an end, except for three things: sadqa jariyah, which is endless charity; a knowledge which is beneficial; or a pious descendant who prays for him. That's for the deceased. So when we remember the name Yacoob and Parak, obviously the Sadaqah Jariyah, the constant remembrance of somebody who has contributed so immensely to the community, inshallah that sawab will reach him forever, inshallah. We have come to the end of the formalities, the speeches. We will now proceed. Obviously, everybody can't go up to the boardroom, so there will be a group of our guests who will be going up for the formal ribbon cutting ceremony, and that will be live streamed. So I just would like to crave your indulgence as the following people, please, will proceed up to the boardroom: Advocate Moosa, Dr. Hussein Randri, Mr. Zain Fakhruddin, Mr. Hashim Randri, Mr. Yusuf Wali from the board, please, Professor Nadvi, Mr. Ismail Parak, Mr. Aslam Parak, and Bilkish and Fatima Parak, and Mr. Moosa Parak as well, please. Okay. Yeah. If you could please, it's a short walk up the stairs. It'll help to develop your appetite for lunch as well by the time you come back. Yeah, I don't think we need wheelchairs. So if you could please follow Advocate Moosa. I hope I didn't leave anybody else out. Fauzi Mohammed, of course, is going to be representing our school. And Professor Ghulam Wahed, Rashida Vaura, Fatima Dain. Rashida and Fatima as well, please. This was, after all, the late Baidei's brainchild, the boardroom. Okay, the proceedings in the boardroom will be, in fact, live streamed shortly as soon as the entourage gets up, inshallah. So you could, in the meantime, just socialize, inshallah.
This all was done. Wasn't very nice. Nice. Huh? Just put him connect.
Okay, he's gonna click it for the hall to be displayed that side on the hall and the projector, and then we'll come back and then we'll be live.
Just give us 1 minute. They're trying to just connect it downstairs on the screen. Yeah, the others will be sure. So I'd be embarrassed for a few more minutes. Everyone's watching you. You won't be now.
No.
Just give him 1 minute.
Yeah.
That
You're lucky it's not going live.
not yet.
They didn't want it to go live.
You don't want it to go
for
live.
hairstylists and all
You don't want it. That doesn't matter. Let's start. If you don't want it, it doesn't matter.
No, downstairs is fine. It's the only joke.
It's going to show downstairs. You don't want to make them feel left out. You can't see anybody here. It'll be like a COVID buster.
That is coming up.
It's Yusuf coming up. Are we good to go, Yusuf? Are you live now? Oh, no. Oh, Fozia is ready.
This actually come this side of the
Do it together, but don't cut yourselves, no?
Together. One stand both of you.
Yeah, this doesn't matter. Both of you, one of you cut. Your face there,
Cut on the back.
no, because
I see the
yeah,
video.
others should be showing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Whatever. Do it together. Put your hands in. Put your hands in. That's it. That's it.
Look at the
Oh,
camera.
wow. You're not going to
Yeah, okay.
Amazing, yeah? Like I was telling you downstairs, it's the original founding 16 trustees. That's my father there, A.I. Kaji. These are all the top here, all the chairpersons, but these are contributions. This is Sastri. Those functions I was telling you about, Orient Club is there. So, just take a, I mean, you'll need a long time, but just take a walk and you remember some of those people. That's Yusuf Ramji, Kasim Bassa, you remember that? Oh, Ibrahim Mota, Ibrahim Moosa only passed away now. So, first time you sing?
No, I've been here a long time.
Oh, you've been here. It's fine, you've been here before as well. Oh, your father's ending on well, I don't need it. That's fine. First chairman of the Institute of Unity.
You're getting me in.
Yeah, amazing, yeah. This thing took years to find all these pictures. Because I could check it against the original video. Like a 5-year job. So these are the founding states. Those are all the chapters. I don't recognize him anymore. That picture is a bit old, but I have to now remember to pretend, you know. This is the audience. This is audience. I used to go here as a little boy with my father, Mullah. He said to me, "Hey, I'm going to try to come take the cue." I used to play snookers around. I'm talking about 60 years ago. It was right. And it was like a you see Sastri sitting in them. This thing belonged to Dick King. You know the guy that wrote Grahamstown, famous Dick King. That land belonged to Dick King. They bought it from him. And they built the rest. Sastri sitting there. Telling them, listen, run this club. And also, here's his portrait. Absolutely the most eloquent man in the British Empire. No Goro could speak like him. He's a brilliant, brilliant scholar. 1927. And he said, club, he said, build your school. That's how it started. No, you're a scholar, great scholar. This is 2015 when we launched the book. The book is there. And then Visa, Orient. The father was a missionary, so he made it to Visa. So they wrote the book. This is Judge President, two more judges. I think we've got it downstairs. I'm just showing. I mean, I already described it. I'm just showing them the. Yeah, I asked them. That's Professor Bouquet from the university. She was a very That's the function I had for Robert Kennedy's daughter. John Kennedy was a president. What was the point? He has never proven because Catholic. That's See, what is it just now? So besides that, we've got a little plaque on the side. Parak. There's a little plaque here besides the top. Just put it up the. Pull the drape. Pull the drape. Pull the drape on. Pull. So now normally all is not here, so it's very visible. They put all this up here deliberately for this. So you walk in, you see it there, you see it there. This is it. No, yeah. So it's the light one. Must have walking. You're talking sensitive things. You can't let those just walking like that.
Jazakallah. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please take your seats again. I think the entourage is, the sooner we settle, we can complete the program, inshallah. May I just ask all of you to please settle down. We would like to thank. Thanks, Tom. Ladies and gentlemen, if I may ask you to please settle. All right, class, may I please ask you to settle down? Thank you very much. I'd like to call upon Hasina Sidat to pass the vote of thanks. Hasina, come.
On behalf of our chairman, Advocate Umar Moosa, members of the Orient Islamic Educational Institute, sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, or I'm speaking to the gentlemen, please. Jazakallah, thank you very much. The longer you take, the more delayed the lunch will be. So let's please get this part of it over. Jazakallah, thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of our chairman, Advocate Umar Moosa, members of the Orient Islamic Educational Institute and the Board of Governors of Orient Islamic School, it is my privilege to pass the vote of thanks on this very special occasion. First and foremost, all thanks are due to Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for granting us the opportunity to host this function after all the uncertainty around the COVID-19 pandemic. To Mr. Hashim Randri and Mr. Yusuf Wali for their generosity in taking care of the catering arrangements, to Professor Ghulam Wahed for his informative and well-researched presentation, to the organizing committee of the function for their meticulous planning, to Mr. Yusuf Ibrahim, our IT manager, who has been ably assisted by Mr. Abu Bakr Moosa for the live streaming of this event, to Ms. Sadika Manju for the photographs, to the audience staff for all the logistics involved in ensuring the success of the event, most particularly to the Parak family and our other esteemed guests for their presence in person, as well as those who have joined us virtually. And finally, to Soli Mandra's caterers, in anticipation of yet another sumptuous lunch, inshallah. Jazakallah.
Maulana, okay. Maulana Muhammadi will read the final dua. This one.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على إمام الأنبياء والمرسلين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين والصلاة والسلام على أكرم الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا وطبيبنا ومولانا محمدا عبد الله ورسوله. اللهم افتح لنا بالخير واختم لنا بالخير واجعل عواقب أمورنا بالخير بيدك الخير إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم لا أحصي ثناء عليك أنت كما أثنيت على نفسك، فلك الحمد ولك الشكر. اللهم ألف بين قلوبنا وجميع قلوب المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات، وأصلح ذات بيننا واهدنا سبل السلام، ونجنا من الظلمات إلى النور، وجنبنا الفواحش والفتن ما ظهر منها وما بطن، وبارك لنا في أسماعنا وأبصارنا وأزواجنا وذرياتنا وقواتنا، وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم اغفر لحينا وميتنا وشاهدنا وغائبنا وصغيرنا وكبيرنا وذكرنا وأنثانا. اللهم من أحييته منا فأحيه على الإسلام، ومن توفيته منا فتوفه على الإيمان. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم، تب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
Jazakallah for your patience.